man, happy Friday. Welcome to the Pitch Night Chronicles. You know what happens here. Fans become family. And actually, first, I am Uncle Tats. I'm here with Rob. It's Friday. We have the baseball game at the stadium tomorrow. Donald is in flight, so he is not with us. And I am so excited to meet up with him. We met last year at one of Pete Simonetti's events. And we just had a blast. Um, really, it's we always say when you meet them that they're just as real as they are on the screen. Donald is in that category. He is hilarious, and no, he's great to talk to during a game. But with that being said, we did have a game Wednesday night after we signed off, and they avoided the sweep in I don't want to use the word epic, but an important ninth inning comeback, because that is one of those innings that can snap an offense back into reality, saying, "All right, we can." We're never out of it. Whether it's whether we're down in the first or we're down in the ninth, that confidence building, that gives it, and that camaraderie in the dugout, not wanting to be the last out before it's over, and it's something that really has been missing from this team, for the last few games prior to that. So this was, and let's also recognize it was kicked off by Big G. That home run just kind of like woke everybody else up, saying, "All right, we're not out of this. We're never out of it," and that has been the vibe around this team. They can do it. They're never going to be like, she's not our night. They always feel it's their night. So that ninth inning, it better, they were able to enjoy it on the off day, get some work in, do some drills, travel home, sleep in their own bed, and get ready for Tampa tonight and into the weekend. So, Rob, how are you feeling about the way that they were able to kind of salvage that series and avoid being swept?
Yeah, it's good to take one. Getting swept would have been bad, but that was a huge inning. I mean, I don't you can call it legendary. I don't think you can call it legendary. I know Donald put up something up like this could be a Yankee classic, maybe depending on how this season goes. But man, that was crazy because I thought it was over. I'm like, this offense isn't doing anything. Judge was like 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. The only person that was producing was Soto, and Trevino to a point, and then stand at the home run. You're like, okay, something could happen here, and then the rally started, and that was big. So to get out of there with one win, to get out of there with a win like that, come back home, 13 wins, still have the most in baseball, I think, or tied for the most in baseball. It's a good sign that they were able to come back because they almost did it twice in this series, coming back to win these games. So that's a good sign that even when they're losing, like we've been saying, they're never out of it. So it was a huge, huge game. Hats off to the pitching for keeping us in it, and hats off to the offense for finally breaking out that ninth inning against their best arms. So that was big because we looked flat for almost 3 entire games, but
Yeah.
we got to that ninth inning and we came alive, and that's what you want to see from it. That's what a good team does, is they come alive at the right moments, and the Yankees came alive at the right moment.
Yeah, I just looked it up right now. The only other team with 13 wins right now is Cleveland. So, even the Dodgers don't have the 13 wins, and they were supposed to go undefeated with their off season, remember?
Yeah. Supposed to.
But that's why you say, why I always say you gotta play the games out. Nothing's handed to you. But no, I think you brought up a name that actually really stood out, because you talk about breaking out of the slumps and everything like that. And, but before I bring up his name, I want to say a little good morning to the chat. And good morning to Stevie B. Appreciate everybody spending their Friday morning with us. We got ABX in the building. What's going on, ABX? Joan Seco, how's it going? Jonathan, it's good to see you in the chat. Frederick, good morning to you. You got Joe, good morning. Good morning. We got Frank Rivera. My guy, Dev Finch. Hope all is well, my buddy. We also have Mr. Barros. Good morning to you, sir. We got FJ in here and following him, NFE. Good morning, my brother. And Oh my wow. Chris the Flash. What's going on, bro? Hope your family is well and coping. Um so it's good to see coming back into the fold. But let's talk about, even though that they lost those first two games, Trevino had a really good series. Um he was looking a lot more of himself at the plate. And you'll hope that that's something that not only sparks him, but also sparks Wells saying, all right, look, if I want to take this job, I got to up my game too. And not so much that they're in competition with each other, but working off of each other, is what how I would rather see it and say it. So, yeah, Trevino had a really solid series in Toronto, despite losing 2 out of 3. Because obviously it's one of those sports that you can't rely on one guy. You know, we've seen it in the years past when all the pressure was on Judge. It one man. He probably is one guy that can carry a team, but if you're not winning a World Series with one person to being productive, it is a team. It's a collaborative effort. So we were also starting to see Trevino starting to remind everybody of why he was the catcher for a while, ahead of Higgy. And Joan, Wells is hitting into hard luck. A few of them are. We talked about that on Wednesday with that game with Rizzo. Despite his numbers, he's hitting into some bad luck. He got caught in the whirlwind of some phenomenal defensive plays in the outfield from Toronto, from Snyder. So yeah, that's also part of the game, but the numbers are what the numbers are at the end of the day. It's you can go 4 for 4 and you're like, wow, what a great game, but it's all infield dribblers. Or they can go 0 for 4, but they had 3 home runs robbed. At the end of the day, the box score reads what it reads. But with the catching situation, because that's one of those cogs in the wheel that we really need to start clicking just a little bit more. How do you feel, Rob?
I want to see Wells get some hits. The dude's hitting like 90 on the season. Like 90. What is his batting average? It's below 100. I think it's like 96, 97. Not good. And to be hitting below 100, I know he's been unlucky, but you want to start to see some of those to actually fall in. It's not good. I mean, his on base is low. I know his slugging has got to be just as low as his batting average. It's bad. And yeah, he's not getting consistent playing time, but at the same time, he's played, I think, just as many games as Trevino, right? Or he may have played 1 or 2 more. So
Yeah, I think
Trevino's
they're
got
almost
some
neck and neck
hits.
at this point.
Yeah, Trevino's got some hits. I mean, that's no excuse for Wells to not be hitting. I mean, I think he's going to eventually he'll run into some luck and he'll run into a few, but he's been given opportunity. I mean, you only have so many games to play this early in the season. What are we 20? Not even 20 games in. So or we are 20 games in. So I mean, you're not expecting the guy to have like 30 games worth of 50 games worth of playing time. They've both gotten pretty equal playing time, and Trevino's been the better hitter. And Trevino couldn't hit for the first like week of the season, so that tells you he's been very unlucky. He's also hasn't been putting together good at bats. Trevino has lately, so you got to ride with the hot hand. And do I want to see Wells get more playing time? Absolutely, I do. I think he's going to be the catcher of the future. I do think his bat is good enough to be at the major league level, but if you're going by early sample size, Trevino's been better. He's been better offensively for sure. I don't know about behind the plate. I think Wells has caught just as well as he could have. I mean, he's been just fine back there. He hasn't really had any issues. And then Trevino's had a couple of hiccups here and there, but overall, Trevino's been the better catcher. So we talk about riding the hot hand all the time. The Yankees need to ride the hot hand. Well, I'd expect Trevino to start tonight. If you're going to go with the hot hand, you pinched hit for him and he got the big hit in game 3 of that series, you're probably going to see him start tonight, and it wouldn't surprise me. We talk about it all the time. The Yankees don't believe in hot. They don't believe in hot. They need to start believing in hot. Well, Trevino's hot, so you got to ride. You got to ride with the hot hand, and that's Trevino. And does it suck for Austin Wells? Absolutely, but there's no denying it. you're hitting below 100, you're not gonna be impressing too many people. Now, will that stay? No, he's gonna start hitting. Absolutely gonna start hitting, but it needs to happen soon before the Yankees have to make a decision.
Yeah, and I see a couple of the comments from NFE and everything. First of all, Stephen B, happy birthday to your wife. Hope she enjoys her day. Spoiler, she deserves it. Uh, yeah, Trevino's batting average 233. Right, that's a respectable batting average at this point for a catcher, especially when they're splitting between two catches at the moment. There might be a game or two difference between the games they've played. They don't like putting Wells in against a lefty. So, the Miami series, it was all lefties. So kind of, Wells and Oswaldo kind of got the shit end of the stick. As far as getting it, getting into the lineup, because Oswaldo with the issue with the switch hitting, does he stick to one side or the other at one point and just abandon being a switch hitter? I don't know it. I don't know the mindset about that. That's gonna, that'll come later on. But there was a comment that he put up that I wanted to. That for a guy like Wells, he needs to be more consistent playing time. He hasn't had enough MLB experience. But the thing is, you can't. It's this was the plan that they had going into the season, where they were going to not so much the strict platoon, but more of that they were really just it was gonna go off for matchups. And I think that's really, it's just a victim of the matchups. It's not that they don't have confidence in the guy, but it's really just a pitching matchup. So I do expect, like, if we have a series where it's all righties, yeah, we're going to see Wells for those 3 games. I believe they'd stick to that. But with the way that Trevino's been hitting, it wouldn't surprise me either if he is, like you said, in the lineup tonight, because they have to play the hot hands. They really do. And it's very difficult when you have to set a lineup and you want to stick to a certain plan. If you're not seeing that matchup of righty pitcher, lefty pitcher, righty pitcher, it's hard to really even up the playing time between those two guys. So, what do you do in that case? Well, like we were always saying, play the hot hand. So Trevino, I would expect to get the nod tonight, although I do want to see Wells getting more opportunity. They always say, well, you can't come out of a slump on the bench. You can't improve your numbers against lefties if you're not allowed to face them. So, that's where you get into that, that mishmash of it. But how do you feel about with the way that they're utilizing the two guys? I mean, does it make sense the way they're doing it? Will it work the way they're doing it?
I mean, it's not going to work if they're not giving him everyday playing time. But if he's not hitting, you can't give him everyday playing time. And Joan, yeah, they ran with Volpe last year, but who was the other option at shortstop besides Peraza? And he wasn't necessarily hitting either. So it's not like Peraza was tearing it up while Volpe was struggling. So they didn't really have an option last year to play another shortstop. Right now, Trevino, I think tonight the Rays are starting a lefty. So I mean, it all adds up. Trevino's most likely going to be catching this game, especially with Clark Schmidt on the mound. So I don't see a big issue if Trevino is the hot hitter right now. He's got what, 6 hits, 5 ribbies in his last 3 games. You keep him in the lineup.
Yeah.
It's nothing against Austin Wells. What we talk about all the time, you ride the hot hand. This is just a hot hand thing. I'd expect if Trevino goes 0 for his next 15, would I be surprised? No, not at all, because he's not a very good hitter. But right now he's hot, so you want to give him as many at bats as you can. If Wells was actually hitting, then I'd be like, okay, well, I want to see the younger player. So right now, though, Austin Wells is not looking good. His at bats don't look good. I know he's had some unlucky at bats in here and there. He's still hitting it kind of hard, but until you start finding grass and getting some hits and your average is above 100, then this is what you're going to get. It sucks. Trust me, it really does. I think Austin Wells is really good and he's got all the tools to be the catcher, but This is just a hot hand thing. This has nothing to do with who I prefer, because I prefer Austin Wells. But until he starts hitting, when he has to get that opportunity. But again, I think Trevino has 12, or Wells has 12 games and Trevino has 10. Wells has got more opportunities, slightly more opportunities, and Trevino's been better as of late. Again, just 3 games out of his 10 that he's played, his last 3 have been great. His first 7 were atrocious. He got hot. So ride the hot hand until it stops, and it probably will stop tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes 0 for 4 tonight. That's the way Jose Trevino is. So Wells will get his opportunities, but he needs to start taking those opportunities and running with them. Because if he doesn't, maybe he does get sent back to AAA, like NFE just mentioned. Some people have brought that up just to get better more at bats, more consistent at bats until he can work on some stuff. Jones says needs some confidence. Maybe that can help him. I don't know how sending him down would help his confidence, but maybe you give that a shot just to get him regular at bats. And then when it seems like he's worked on that swing a little bit, you can get him back up here. But I don't know who the other catcher would be, because we traded Rortvedt, and I think Torrens might be hurt. So I don't know who the other catcher would be.
Yeah,
isn't tearing the cover off the ball. So yeah, that's the thing, NFE. That's what I'm trying to figure out. There really is no other option. Do they DFA somebody and get Ben Rice up here from AA? That's a possibility, but usually they don't like to skip over AA guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I think you got to ride with it until Wells gets hot, but he had a good spring, so it's not like the bat isn't there. He also started slow when they called him up last year. In the last couple of weeks, he got hot. So maybe it's just he needs to get the timing right. He could be a little bit off on his timing. I think he's going to start hitting. It's just right now you go with the hot hand. That's Trevino. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not worried about Wells long term at all. I don't send him down because you want to get him going. And I don't know if sending him down would give him the opportunity to increase his confidence. You know what I mean? So, and right now he is our, him and Trevino are our catching options on the roster. So I'm just, like you said, it's the first couple of weeks. Today is the 20th. Tonight is the 20th game of the season. So, I've been, like Bob has been telling me, just relax a little bit. That there's still a long season to go. It's hard to completely evaluate a player that was just called up last year and expecting them to just be an all-star. Maybe he needs some of Volpe's chicken parm, John. You're right. But I want to read this comment from Spencer, who's listening to the show. It's like, if Trevino is hot right now, put him in the game. He's eventually going to cool off. We know that. When it cools off, you put in Wells. We just don't have the luxury of a guy like Yadier Molina or Buster Posey. We don't have the option. That's part of what we were saying. I just think that we need to just show just a little bit more patience, because we don't have that lockdown option. They're not going to bring up Rice because they're not going to skip AAA. He doesn't have that prospect value where it's like, yeah, you have no choice. It's not like a Dominguez where you give him a week in AAA just to kind of ease him in, and then you have to let him go through let Ben Rice go through the ranks. And one of the other young kids that I wanted to talk about, because I think it's really worthy of a discussion, is Volpe in the leadoff spot. Is it working? Is it not? Is it too soon? Is it easy? Can we determine this after one series? Because when he first was put those first couple of games in the leadoff spot, he was fine. His at bats were just the same. He might have just run into where he just had a bad, tough series against good pitching. It could have happened to him in the 6 hole where he was going over. And then we would be like, well, maybe he should have been in a leadoff spot so Soto's behind him. He might see better pitches. So, there's always that argument for and against. I say leave it alone. You know, don't drop him down now because he had a rough series. Yeah, it might have been premature to put him up there, but don't pull the rug out from under him just yet. Let's see how this weekend goes for him. Then we can really evaluate where he's sitting in the lineup.
The only issue I had with it was they did it when Torres was finally starting to get going a little bit. Like his at bats were a lot better, and then they made the switch, and now Torres looks lost. So that's the one issue I had with it. But now that you made the move, you got to stick with it because now you're going to kill the kid's confidence within 20 games of the season if you keep junk. That's why I didn't want them to do it in the first place. I'm like, it's still too early, but they did it, and now they got to stick with it. Now he's your leadoff hitter no matter what. So you keep him there, and I'm fine with that. We'll see if he bounces back tonight. He was bound to have a rough series, exactly like Jones said. He wasn't going to hit 350. If the guy hits 270, I'm happy. If he hits 260, I'm happy. The guy hit what 209 last year. If he's giving you 260 or better, you're taking that. Even 250. I know I keep lowering the bar there, but in today's game, a 250 average is really good. So you're going to take that every day of the week. And he's going to stay there. He's a leadoff hitter for the Yankees. I still think Dominguez is a better overall leadoff hitter for today's game, but the Yankees really like Volpe. Boone likes Volpe there. They said when LeMahieu's back, they're not going to tinker with it. So they made their decision and they're sticking with it, which is always a good sign when they stick with something. I think they were waiting for a matter of time for Volpe to really start to hit. They wanted to see, okay, did the hot spring carry over? It did. Gleyber Torres was struggling. They made the switch. Boom. Now you got your leadoff hitter, and they're going to run with it. So that's a good sign. I'm happy about it. I'm hoping the middle of the order starts to get hot too, specifically guys like Judge batting third, but technically the middle of the order. Judge, Rizzo, Torres, those are guys that need to start hitting, and this offense will go on a tear. If two of those three guys start to get hot, this offense is going to be really, really good.
Yeah, and I think what the other thing they should do with this Tampa series, we're going to dive really deeper into it, but I'll bring this point up, and then we'll bring up some of the comments in the chat, and then we'll do our awards, go through the whole routine. But the way Stanton's hitting, I do expect that the Tampa series, Judge is going to start seeing a lot more pitches that he can do something with. It was easy to kind of pitch around Judge when you have a struggling Stanton and Rizzo behind him. It's like, well, we don't need to pitch to Judge. They were all like, well, Soto's seeing better pitches, but Soto can take a walk. He can work out a walk with a blindfold on. His vision in the zone is, like I said, he's got one of the best eyes at the plate that I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of baseball. I don't know anybody that's that patient. That's why I love when he gets those when it's on the corner, like very borderline, and he gets the strike hole and he looks at the umpire going, seriously, and he'll give him a little stare down. Nothing disrespectful, but one of those do better ump. But let's see, Damian, what's going on, Damian? Volpe's good to go. You have to leave him in the leadoff, especially when DJ is back. Volpe must stay leadoff. I agree. I think, and I'll find out if Rob agrees in a second, when DJ is back, I think Gleyber's the odd man out. It better not be Cabrera. How do you feel, Rob?
It's all going to be matchup based. You can't take Cabrera out of the lineup, but you also can't take Gleyber out of the lineup because he's still a guy that you don't want sitting on the bench. I know people are going to disagree with that because of how bad he's looked, but he's also been – I still think if you go combine the last, 2 seasons, who's been the Yankees' best hitter, the most consistent hitter? It's been Gleyber Torres. It's not Aaron Judge. I know Judge had 62, but by last year and the year before, Torres has been there every day. He didn't miss time. He's been great. You're not going to just bench that because you know how good he can be. So that's a really tough decision. I think they should think about sitting Rizzo. I really do, because he looks terrible. He looks really, I know he got robbed a couple of times, but his defense has been bad. He's not really seen the ball very well. I think they're going to go matchup based. Maybe you put Cabrera in left field a couple of times, utilize his versatility. You can put LeMahieu at first if you want. You can put LeMahieu at third, Cabrera in left. You can DH Torres and sit Stanton one of these days against a certain pitcher just to keep, they like to rest him just to keep him healthy. There's options. So I don't know if they bench one guy and then keep it that way. This is an opportunity for them to use DJ as the full-on utility player that he's supposed to be. Could play him everywhere. Give Rizzo a day off, give Torres a day off, give Cabrera a day in the outfield, and Verdugo a day off, give Stanton a day off. Judge can use one, I think. You can utilize that. You can put they'd have to put Verdugo in center or start Grisham. This is the way to get Grisham a little more playing time. So I think this is going to work out. And it'll allow them to use DJ in more of that utility role that he's supposed to be. And Cabrera, FJ Cabrera can play first base if need be. So there's ways to get them in the lineup. I just don't think sitting Torres for an extended period of time is going to help him, because the Yankees need him to be a productive bat. And even if people say, "Oh, trade him," well, who's going to take him? What are you going to get for him right now when he's struggling like this? So I think you need to give Glaber as much playing time as possible, and benching him doesn't really help anything.
No, I don't think benching him outright is the solution at all. I just want to see. I want to see LeMahieu play more second. But that doesn't mean that Torres doesn't get himself into the lineup. Like you said, he could still do. There's still the DH option. Give Stanton. Stanton. Because Stanton's going to cool off. When that happens, you just and you just keep everything very fluid. It also gives you the option of giving Rizzo some rest, because Rizzo has been kind of showing some signs from last year that before we knew that he had the concussion, because he just looks a little lost. So maybe giving him just a little breathing room, because this comment from your dad here is Rizzo is still concussed. He really needs to get checked out. I don't think it's. I really. If he's still having concussion symptoms and they are still running him out there every day, they really just don't get it. They really don't.
He's got to tell them, though, because it's the same thing last year. We all said that it was the Yankees' fault, but he didn't say anything.
He didn't say a word.
It's just as much on him as it would be the team. I don't think that's the case, though, because they're obviously going to be checking him regularly. The dude had a concussion that completely turned his game in the wrong direction last year. They wouldn't just be like, "You're good? Okay, we trust you." They'd be checking on him daily. You don't mess around with head injuries, especially seeing how bad he was after it last year.
Yeah, and I'm great point by D-Rod here too. Speaking of adjustments, Rizzo needs to adjust his game as an older player. Sometimes it's hard to get into your head that you're the old guy in the room, that you're the veteran on the team. It's sometimes it doesn't, you're older, I mean, obvious, but mentally you're like, I can still keep up with these kids. And maybe Rizzo needs to realize, maybe he does need to make just a slight adjustment. Damien also doesn't believe he's still concussed, as does NFE. Mr. Barrett, is it long-term effects? The long-term effects would usually come in years later, not carry season to season. So I think he's fine. I think that the chat's on it. It's just he's got to adjust. He's got to realize he's the veteran in the room. He's not going to be able to catch up to every fastball. Just fight off what you can, so you get something you can do something with.
But wouldn't that tell you that he's not fine, though? Because these are pitches that he usually handles. Because before he got cracked in the head last year, he was hitting 3-something, and he looked like he was going to be an MVP candidate. All of a sudden now the guy can barely hit his own weight, and his it wouldn't be a case of like, oh, he's just getting unlucky. He's not hitting the ball hard. His defense is a question mark because he's not making plays he usually makes. It may not be concussed, but there could certainly be something lingering from that maybe is tinkering with his sight. It could just be maybe because remember Clint Frazier, he
Yeah.
never recovered from that.
No,
Really,
he was
he
never.
got like a couple of years later, he was a little bit better when he was a Gold Glove candidate, but then his career just fell off completely. You got to think that had something to do with it. Brandon Drury had eyesight problems. It wasn't a concussion, I think, but I don't know. Wouldn't say he's concussed, but there's something there. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I don't know what it is. I just think they need to give him a day off or two. Just sit him. Get him
Yeah.
some rest because when we get DJ back, I think you'll do that. And Joan, TJ Rumfield, I've been mentioning his name since the offseason. He's a guy I've been really keeping an eye on because we don't have a lot of first basemen in the system. He's just got promoted to AAA, I believe. And I think it was his first game yesterday or the day before. So I'm looking out for TJ Rumfield. He looked really good in that breakout game in the spring. He's not on the 40 man. It doesn't matter, FJ. I'm just saying that you could keep an eye on him because you can add him to the 40 man. The Yankees have had
It's
like
just a player to
several
watch.
move changes. Yeah. They've had several move changes over the last. They just added an outfielder yesterday. I forgot his name, but they got rid of Kevin Smith, who they just called up for Birdie's injury. So yeah, they're making moves all the time. They can make a 40 man decision like that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm just saying keep an eye on Rumfield.
Yeah, that's all. It's just somebody to watch. That's all. That's what we do. It's it could just be like you were alluding to, Rob. It just could be a situation where like we'll call it the Frazier effect. Where it's just taking him a little bit longer to kind of find his groove again. And once he does, he'll go back to that MVP type player that he was looking like last year. So I don't want to close the book on him, but I think that's why I said on Wednesday with on the show, that's why DJ coming back is so important to this team because it's not so much his production, it's his ability to give guys a break. Because we don't have really who's our backup first baseman right now. He's got to play every day. So he unless there's no game that day, when is he going to break? We don't have a second baseman really to throw in for Torres. I just think that they're really. I mean, they need DJ back so bad. It's not even. It's not even funny. These guys, because we always worried about the bullpen burning out, the infields, and you're also that might also be the effect of why we're seeing so many errors on the infield. They're not getting as much as we're cheering that Boone is being more consistent with the lineup. These guys do need, this day and age in baseball, these guys need those off days.
Especially older guys.
Yeah.
Especially the older guys. And it wouldn't be, again, Rizzo, his average is okay. 240, again, is not the end of the world, but his on base is all right. His OPS is below 700. He's not hitting for power, just like he was last year after the concussion. The power zapped. It was gone. And he's striking out a ton for a guy that doesn't really strike out that much. And he's not drawing walks either, which means he's not seeing the ball that well. So that's my issue with Rizzo. It's if he was hitting like 240 with the higher on base and the OPS was good, but it's everything that he usually does well, he's not doing well. And again, it's 19 games in, but it's the guy that had a concussion last year. It's a scary thing. He could use some days off here and there. It sucks that DJ is hurt, but maybe they got to think about let's start Jahmai Jones for a day. And I don't know. He doesn't play third. That's why I'm very confused why they added Trammell, another outfielder, and they got rid of Kevin Smith, who can actually play third base. I don't know what they're doing with this. Yeah, it's a weird decision.
Yeah.
I think he needs some days off. Give him a day or two, let him rest, get his head right, and he'll probably start hitting because he had a good game against Toronto, but he got robbed twice. He had the big hit against Cleveland, so he's obviously, it's not like he's can't see at all and he's got fuzzy vision or anything, but his timing's just a little bit off. And I don't
Yeah,
know if
it's just
that's
not clicking.
yeah, it's not clicking because also the defensive struggles, and we talk about the mental aspect of it with Glaber. He's probably thinking too much. He's like, damn, I'm screwing up defensively and now I can't hit. He knows that he's older. He knows he's got that option next year that's going to get declined if he doesn't start getting it going. And this maybe is the last year of his career because who's going to take on a declining older first baseman that can't hit, can't field very well? You know, he's known for being a great fielder. Again, 20 games in, it's not going to be like this the entire year, but just the early results, it makes me believe that there's something lingering from last year, and I hope I'm wrong.
Yep. No, I hope he pulls out of it, and I expect him to. I really do. This is not going to be like last year, where this is we're 2 months into it, and we're like still trying to figure out what happened. What went wrong? No, if this carries into the turn of the going into next month, then I'm like, all right, maybe they really need to start evaluating what they're going to do. Let's get a month into the season, and then we'll know what we're dealing with, and that goes for everybody on the roster, not just Rizzo. Torres, Volpe, Judge. You can't keep, just because he's the captain doesn't mean he's immune from any criticism. But and he's starting to look a little bit more like himself at the plate. But let's get to the awards, and then we'll go over our expectations for the Tampa series, and some announcements for the weekend. But for the MVP of the series, who's your MVP? And also, don't forget to let us know in the chat as we tally it all up.
Yes, well, we have Donald's. He sent us in his awards, so we do have Donald. So we'll start with him. MVP is Juan Soto. He says, in his words, Juan, it's a one-man shoto. That's what he says. Juan Soto is the MVP. So that is straight from Donald, who is currently in the air, flying from Scotland to the Big Apple. So we wish him a safe flight. So that is Donald's MVP. We got a couple coming in here. Soto coming from NFE, and Joan. Tats, who do you have?
And Soto. He's been the one. He's been the most consistent of everybody, and he just seems to be that. He's the the operator on the train right now. He's the conductor. He's in charge. He's leading the way. It's Soto.
I'm going to give it to Jose Trevino. I think Trevino has been the best. I think he had he had 3 RBIs. He almost brought us back the other day. He had a big hit in a pinch hit spot, which could give to the clutch award as well. But I'm going to give that one to Jose Trevino. I think he had a really good series.
See, the one we don't have is the low key MVP. Is that would I have him down as a low key? Just because he's starting to show that he's coming out of it. He was involved with a lot that was going on, that was going right for us during the series. But you can't discount. That's why I brought him up specifically. Earlier in the show, because Trevino, what he had, this was his best, 3-game set of the series of the season so far. And that I felt that needs, I would recognize that.
Yeah. He didn't give us a low key MVP. So
No, he
Donald can take the L today.
Yeah.
There you go. He got me on that. I heard when I wasn't here on Friday last week, he told me I can take the L. Guess what, Donald? Right back at you, buddy. You don't. So we'll go with our low key MVPs of the series. And chat was a pretty much resounding Soto for the MVP. So that was a pretty easy one. Now, what about the low key MVP?
Yeah. So, let us know in the chat. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm going with Trevino. I don't know. Drop in the chat. Let us know what you guys think. Who is the MVP runner-up? It looks like Trevino's got that one.
See, Trevino was my MVP.
NFB, Joan, Yep. The Clutch Award.
Well,
And
my low key MVP is Soto. I just wanted to let that
I
out
thought
there.
you mentioned. Oh, okay.
No, my MVP was Trevino. My low key was Soto.
Gotcha.
So now, since Donald didn't have one, we can go to the Clutch Award. Donald says he's thinking Big G for that home run to the Space Needle. Without that, there's no rally, although technically Trevino's 4 RBIs in the series is probably it also. But give me Big G. He's got Giancarlo Stanton. I got Juan Soto as my Clutch Award because that home run that put us within 2 runs, I think that was huge as well. It kind of got the team amped up a little bit. I know Stanton's was huge, and Judge had the big hit off also, and it looks like Judge is getting that Clutch Award. But I think Soto's home run is what really kind of jolted this team back. Like, hey, we can still do this thing. I'm going to give that to Soto.
No, I have Judge. That rally isn't kept off without that at bat.
It was huge,
and he's every big moment this year seems to find him, and he's struggled to come through. He finally got that game, that big hit to give us the win, and that's what you expect from the leader of your club, the captain of your organization. So, as great as Soto and Judge's home and Stanton's home runs were to the comeback, I think that no, I think it's gotta go to Judge for me.
Jones says Stanton but it looks like the majority is saying Aaron Judge. So the captain gets the Clutch Award. Now we're to go to the best pitcher. Donald says Kikuchi, if we're being honest, but give me Clay Holmes. That's right. I said it. That is straight from Donald. He's given the best pitcher award to Clay
how
Holmes.
many times did you read that to make sure he said that right?
I thought I had a concussion after reading that because I never expected Donald to come out there and give Clay Holmes any sort of credit, but he did. Clay Holmes got the best pitcher award, and I am with NFE because I'm giving mine to Marcus Stroman. I think he pitched really well in a spot where we needed him to give us some length. He gave us 5 1/3. I'm going to give it to Marcus Stroman. On the road against his former team, kept us in that thing, gave us a chance to win it, and we did.
Yeah, no, it's the pressure keeps finding Stroman. He's finding himself in these big games where he's got to deliver, and he might not have gone for length, but he was extremely effective, keeping us in the game. It's a lot of pressure when you're on a new team going and almost right away you got to play your old team. Within your first couple of starts and show up
Twice. He played him twice.
Yeah. So yeah, Stroman was the better pitcher this series, but not to say that Holmes, was a bad pick.
Yeah, and Joan brings up a good point. Volpe kind of saved him. That's been Clay Holmes' year. He's been saved several times by the defense. He has a perfect ERA, and he's perfect in save opportunities, but he's getting some help from that defense behind him. All right, take the L. Donald says Gleyber Torres, he better pucker up because I'm flying home across the pond so he can kiss my ass. That is Donald's Take the L award. He is just racking it up with the jokes today. So take the L to Gleyber Torres. Tats, who is taking your L for the series?
This one, I'm going to go with the offense. Even though they came through on that, on that last game, doesn't excuse the signs that were reverting back. They had us thinking about 2023 too much during the series, and with all the high that we were on to start the year, I got it. The offense. I'm giving the L to. Be better. You showed that you can in that 9th inning. Now carry it into Tampa.
MH, Donald's been calling me Robinho for like the last 2 weeks, so I'm just gonna stick with it. That's what you've been missing. What's up to MH? It's basically like a clean sweep for Gleyber Torres here.
Wow.
In terms of taking the
I
L.
can't give it to him every series. I mean, I could, but
you can. He did came up with a hit in the final game of that series. He did have a couple of walks, so he wasn't the worst player. I've been thinking Caleb Ferguson hasn't been very good, and he struggled again the other day. And he's going to take my L for this series. I was high on Caleb Ferguson, but he's been terrible to start the season.
Yeah, he's hit a little slide.
Yeah. So I'm going to give mine to Caleb Ferguson. Be better, man. We need you because I was really happy with that trade. And I still think it's going to end up being a good move. But so far, he's been our worst relief pitcher to this point. Him and Weaver actually have been both bad. So,
yeah, it's. Yeah, I still stand by the trade. Getting Ferguson. I was happy about it. I got it. I don't know if it's the situations that they're putting him in, the defense behind them, because when defense is struggling, it affects the pitching. Every aspect of the game will affect the pitching. So, if he's got a catcher that's just not on their game behind the plate, they get nervous to throw the ball down the zone. And they end up leaving too many balls up and you get smacked around. But no, I'm Ferguson's on the fence still on whether he's suited for those late innings. I'll give him a little more time.
Now for the rating for the manager, Aaron Boone, Donald gives him a 7. Didn't really put a foot wrong. Extra point for pinch hitting for Trevino. So he had him at a 6, gave him an extra point, gave him a 7. And you didn't say he did anything wrong. I am going to give him a 9. I think Boone did fine. I don't think he really made any decision. It wasn't his fault. The offense couldn't hit. You don't have anyone to turn to off the bench to get a rally going. And that pinch hit decision for Trevino was fantastic. I'm going to give him a 9.
Yeah, I've seen nothing wrong with Boone. I really haven't. Boone's been really good this year. It's and I've said it. When you allow him to manage, and you let him put the book away, this is the Boone that he is. There's the real Boone which we see now, and there's the analytic Boone, that turns everything to crap. And don't start, Joan. No half numbers.
Don't do it. Don't summon him because we've had a nice clean chat. Don't summon him.
And I didn't want to leave the screen. I want to go over some of Spencer's picks. He had his votes. He had Stanton for the Clutch Award. His take the L was Carlos Rodon. He really underperformed in his last start. He's got to get it together. And I don't think he's wrong. I don't give him the L because, look, you might not have had his best stuff. You might not have given us length, but he was not the reason that we lost the game. The bats were silent. And if you can't put up runs, you can't blame the pitcher because that means the offense isn't doing their job. It's it's a weird balance that I've always looked at it that way. I can't help it, but that's how I look at it.
Yeah, he was, but I think that's a really good choice though because he sucked.
No, he's got to give us length. We got to get more.
He flat out stunk that game, so I think that's a really good choice by Spencer. I would change mine if it wasn't too late already, but that's a really good one.
Yeah.
And Donald's special prick award. He keeps doing it. He has these two that were showing up at some point in the game. I think the first game of the series. Those are the Pricks Award. If you guys can see it, I'm hoping you can. This was shown at some point in the bottom. It looks like of the third inning of the game, and these two Canadian fools were shown up on the screen. So There you go. There's Donald's prick award for the week.
That's oh my god. And to voluntarily, it's either you lost a bet or you just I couldn't. Could you? No, I don't even want to imagine it, like having to do dressing up like that in public. You would never
And then
catch
having
my
to
ass fucking doing that. No way.
having to write it. Not never mind. I'm not going to finish that sentence. And if he no, I'm not. No one's saying that we're worried about Rodon. We're just. It's
Yeah,
more like he needed to be better in that start.
yeah.
You
It's
can't
just
be.
that start.
Yeah, you can't be throwing 100+ pitches in 4 innings. It's just not a good recipe. And you see why, because he didn't look good. He walked a bunch of batters. He didn't have his put away stuff. Just for that one start, it was very upsetting. And yeah, he should take the L for that. Because you're making 27 million, buddy. You got to be better than that.
Yeah. No, his previous starts have been, they've been quality starts. He's not getting tattooed. He's not getting lit up. You know, um, so I'm not, no, I'm not worried about Rodon. I just, look, he wasn't on, he wasn't even on our radar for the L until it was brought up. But, and I don't think he deserved the L anyway because, you know, um, even though he was struggling to get outs, he never collapsed. So, you got to give it to him for that. But I'm not worried about Rodon at all. What if this becomes a trend with these pitchers, the whole rotation, they got to start getting to that point of the year where you're able to push yourself an inning more because this bullpen's getting its ass kicked, and it's too early for that. You don't have Cole right now to be that innings eater and your ace. They all need to start eating some innings. I think the only one that's gone deep into a game right now is freaking Nustek. He
That
got
one
us to the
start.
eighth inning.
That's it. He's the only one. The only one that's been consistent is Stroman. He's been getting you at least into the 6th inning, but that's it. I think Rodon had one start where he gave you 6, but Schmidt's not good for length. Nestor is, again, one start. Heel, you really can't expect him to give you length because of the injury and the fact that he has no control. That's what you're stuck with right now. So Rodon and Stroman have to give you length. They have to. And then when Cole gets back, you're going to be fine. But Rodon has to give you length. And I know they had extra day of rest, but throwing 100+ pitches in 4 innings is bad. That's just bad. I'm sorry. For one start, I'm going to say he was bad. His first 3 starts were fine. That last start was terrible.
Yeah. Yep. All right, quick preview on the Tampa series. What are we expecting? What are we hoping to see? We have Schmidt going tonight, and I think it's fitting to just kick it off with him. And it goes right to the conversation we were just having. They have to get deeper into the game. And if he's saying 2 out of 3, as long as they win tomorrow, but I want them to sweep. Though I want them to sweep. But I also want to make a point before we go that they better not lose on the day that they're honoring John Sterling. They better not lose at the game when the whole podcast community is pretty much getting together just to hang out and have a good time. That last time that Donald came to the States to see a game, we were there, and that's when they got, they lost to Houston, and it was just it sucked. I want to see a win. Don't ruin the celebration tomorrow. That's all I ask.
No, that's a hope. Please don't do it, because I do not want to hear Tats come on here on Monday morning and blowing a gasket that he turns so red that he looks like that hot dog that we just showed up on the screen. So please, for the love of God, do not lose tomorrow, Yankees. I want them to win the series too. I need, like I said, like we've been saying, we need to get some length from Clark Schmidt.
Yeah.
I think Saturday is Nestor, so good luck. And Sunday's start looks like it's going to be Luis Heel. So some big starts coming for this rotation. We need to get at least 5 from all 3 of them. At least 5 innings, I think, will be okay. If we can get 5+ from Schmidt and Nestor specifically, we're going to have a really good shot to win this series. And I'm looking at guys like Rizzo and Judge and Torres that I mentioned earlier. These are guys that need to start getting going, breaking out of these slumps they're in, and this offense can really take off. But we're still in a really good spot to salvage one. Hopefully they can continue to ride the hot momentum after that big win and win some games at home against a division rival. That's what we need to do.
Well, that's the other part of it. It's keeping, staying ahead of pace against the division. Because like we said last year, the same rules still apply. There's less division games this year. So these division series have even more weight on them because you don't want to fall behind, in the divisional matchups. We already won the season series against Houston, sweeping them to open the year. So even if they come and they get their payback in the stadium, we still have the game ahead of them. Then that's it. There's, we're not playing. I think it's 15 games now, 14 or 15 games instead of the 18 against the division.
I think it's something like that. Yeah, it's a lot less now because they have you playing every team. There's no more like interleague week. It's basically just play everybody. I mean, that should have been the case all along. I have 162 games, for crying out loud. So, but yeah, they're even more important now, especially because the entire division is 500 or better. So these are big. You want to, especially against Tampa Bay, because we struggle against them all the time. So I would love to win a series against these guys.
I know. Yeah, Tampa's got to be put in their place. I'm tired of them coming to into our house and walking over us. That's got to stop. It's the only time that anybody even watches freaking Tampa, unless because nobody watches them at home in that little tin can. So the Trump, that's gotta be. Is that still the worst stadium in the league?
Well, Oakland, that absolute that's a pitiful stadium, but being there at the Trop just that one time made me never want to go back because it's really ugly. The fans, I'm not going to talk about that, but there were a couple of instances where I was getting yelled at by the Rays fans that don't exist. The only time that they get anybody there is when the Royal Rumble was in town. So that tells you everything you need to know. There ain't no such thing as an actual Tampa Bay Rays fan. It's not even in Tampa Bay. It's whatever. I've already said what I've had to say about that place. I don't like it. I didn't even want to go back there for Jeter's last season. I was like, I can go watch the game at Tampa, and see, he's back. See, he came in right at the end of the show. He's got to come in with the bad joke immediately.
I mean, the crap of Canada. That kind of all right. I'll laugh at that. I like that. What?
Crap doesn't rhyme with trop. It's a bad joke, Sunil. There, I said it. Someone back me up in the chat, please. Thanks.
Spencer's prediction. Strike zone's like, Spencer's prediction. He goes, my guess for the upcoming series is that it'll be low scoring because the weather is going to be cold and crappy. That's all I can really say. I think Clark will do well. I think we win the game, and this will win the game he pitches. Well, yeah, Schmidt's pitching tonight. We got Nestor tomorrow, and then Heel on Sunday. So we'll see how the weekend goes for them. So we will break it all down on Monday. So that's going to wrap things up for us today. Just remember, hit that like button, hit that sub button, share this out with your friends, your family, the stranger around the corner. And don't forget to tune in on Sunday, 11 a.m. for the Upper Deck with Lynn and Jonah, Lynn's new co-host. You all know her on Twitter as JP Yankees Girl. She has officially joined the family last week. With everything else going on, We did not really get a chance to mention that. Apologize to the ladies, but yeah, no, they have their new lineup over there on Sunday mornings. They're killing it, and look forward to seeing what they do together. So make sure you show up on Sunday and show them your support. So with that being said, I'll say it again: hit that like button, hit that sub button, share this out with friends, your family, strangers on the corner. This has been the Pinstripe Chronicles, where fans become family. So wear those pinstripes of pride and play on.